Welcome, Overflyers. The music for video games is one of the first things I look into when buying a game. I know it sounds pretty silly that, out of all things, music would overshadow gameplay, but if done well, music becomes like another character in a story. I'm a total sucker when it comes for in-game music. I often find myself listening to it outside of playing games and video editing. Most of the time I listen to lo-fi or some kind of chill piece from a game, but when you are experiencing the game with these tracks playing, it can be one of the most memorable experiences in the entire game. Let's first look at Celeste. The game's soundtrack is awesome. Lena Raine did an amazing job setting the feel for each world. The music has this 8-bit sound, and it fits into the game's art style, but there are orchestrated parts that play another big role. It adds dimension to something that would otherwise be literally flat. This variation alone shows depth and meaning in the game's approach, taking a game about climbing a mountain, a simple idea, and turning it into a story about overcoming your problems. I'll let you listen to the soundtrack for 5 minutes, and I dare you to tell me it isn't good. I got hooked on this soundtrack. It's great for listening to when working, playing games, or for background music. Another game that got me hooked on its soundtrack is Boneworks. It has this 80s modern vibe to it that's cleverly done. Lots of electronic instrumentals that feel like an 80s sci-fi movie. It gives off a perfect tone of where you are in-game and when you should be prepared to fight. It takes a slightly different approach than most games, with half the soundtrack being able to stand alone and half background music. I love it. It's definitely something to give a listen. I can't not include Hollow Knight, so Hollow Knight it is. I'm gonna say it now, the game isn't for me. I love the lore and art style, but there's something about the movement that makes the game feel stiff and hard to control. But that soundtrack, it immediately set the story to come and got me super immersed into this world about a little bug. Portions of it have Danny Elfman sort of feel to it, sweeping orchestrals and diving backbeat. In the first 10 hours I played, I just enjoyed finding new areas and listening to the soundtrack. The game itself doesn't do much for me. The levels all blend in and it's just not my thing. I mean, giving each one a listen on its own does set it apart and remind you of your journey. But the way it all starts blending in saddens me. Though plenty of gamers adore this game, my sister included. I recommend playing the game with either high-quality speakers or headphones if you have any. Fun fact, Team Cherry is also having a mostly string-orchestrated soundtrack for their next game, Silksong, since it's about Hornet, who has a lot to do with Silk. It's a clever twist on Silk/string and shows intriguing forethought. Minecraft. The most iconic video game in history with, honestly, the most cleverly designed soundtrack out there. You launch the game and are immediately relaxed with a simple piano in the background. You can instantly appreciate the world you're in and be piled into doing simple tasks like building a house, making a farm, taming a dog. Listening to the Minecraft soundtrack for your first time is a pure experience. It is an instant nostalgia machine with a story to tell. From what I played of Ori, it intends to be an emotional roller coaster, filled with beautiful visuals, difficult platforming, and a complete 2D open world with a big emphasis on the world around you. I used one of its pieces in a video about global warming because the soundtrack was so emotional. Giving it a listen for the first time gave me chills down my spine. This is truly the peak of gaming soundtracks, and I'm so excited to find a couple more hours of time where I can play this game in all its glory. You're probably starting to see a pattern. Most games I'm talking about are indie games, mostly made by small teams. Yeah, I'm not sure why, but the soundtracks I listen to and enjoy are mostly indie, but I think it's because AAA games start to blend in with each other. Battlefield 1, Fallout 4, Ark, The Last of Us, they all set a tone for their game, but you know exactly what to expect. High quality, orchestrated pieces that fit into the game well. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are great soundtracks. Have you listened to Doom? But nearly every single game goes for what's safest or what works, where it feels a lot less important than a game like Hollow Knight, where you can really feel the game by just listening to it. Like, if you listen to Ark, would you really expect it to be a game about dinosaurs? Or if you listen to Doom, would you really expect it to be about killing demons? These big games for me have a Michael Bay action movie kind of feel. They're just what needs to be, nothing more, nothing less. A backdrop without becoming a plot-driving device. There is one AAA developer, though, that continues to shine through. Nintendo. They have made some of the most iconic pieces of music ever. If you ever went up to someone and asked them to sing the Mario theme song, they would know it. They continue to make not only outstanding pieces inside games, but perfect pieces to listen to outside of those games. There's so many games of theirs that I could go over, so I'm just going to name a few franchises with iconic soundtracks that probably come up instantly in your mind. Mario, Zelda, Wii Shop Channel, Me Creator, Animal Crossing, Kirby, Pokemon, Super Smash Bros., Splatoon, Tetris, anything? Yeah, that's what I thought. They continue to impress me with every game on how they can put something like Jump Up Superstar into a valid atmosphere in Super Mario Odyssey. I have never reviewed music in my life, but it's such a big part that I look forward to when discovering and looking at new games. Listening to a soundtrack is often the first thing I do when searching for a good indie game to play with the right settings. What makes a good soundtrack for me is if it's consistent, great to listen to on its own, and puts a setting in the world you're heading into without even visiting. We are meeting a peak in gaming with a high expectation on soundtracks, much like movie soundtracks have been for decades, and I'm loving every second of it.